What's up, guys? This is Rob, and I'm the vet.
Hey, I'm Murph. I'm the maintenance man.
What's up, guys? It's Shay. I'm the girl, and it's International Women's Day, and you guys all have to be nice to me today, so there's that. Welcome. Oh, Rob, your mic is not, as much as I enjoy not hearing you.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
the pizzazz I had on my intro was, gosh.
No, can you just do like a little redo? Because I'm curious.
We're going to redo it, guys. Hey, guys. No, see, now I don't feel it anymore.
Scott Stapp would have never made that mistake.
No. And look, I'm wearing a tank top. And Scott Stapp, look, I have a little bit of
Look at your chest hair. Yeah.
Right?
Looking
guys,
good,
I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on another episode of the Waiting Table Podcast, where we have roundtable discussions about the hottest topics in weight loss with, of course, the coolest people from the bariatric community. I'm Rob. We got Murph, we got Shay, and we got you guys. So grab a chair, wind down from your busy day, and take a seat at the table. We got a super exciting show tonight. Murph, how about you start us out with introducing our special guest, and Shay will start us out with something fun right after.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited about this episode. Our guest tonight is joining us from Los Angeles, California. I'm just going to jump right in, guys. I'm just going to start reading. He is the author of the book, All the Reasons I Hate My 28-Year-Old Boss. He is a two-time Emmy-nominated TV producer who has worked on shows for Netflix, Disney+, Peacock, and Fox. He also spends way too much time and probably money on hair care products. Please welcome, everybody, Phillip Andrew Barbb.
Oh, hi, guys.
What's up?
I'm just over here working
Look
on
at
my
the
hair.
volume. Oh my
God.
gosh.
God, I love it.
I tried, but I couldn't get it. Sheesh.
Am I too loud? I'm always loud.
No, you're good, man.
That's
You're
kind of
good.
my thing. Shay, great to meet you. Murph, great to see you. I don't know who this other guy is because he didn't do an intro. I have no idea.
Oh my
who
gosh,
he is.
I know.
And I am so angry that I didn't get the memo that we can wear tank tops. I totally would have came in here with a tank top.
I know. I wore one because I
change.
saw your last video. I'm like, dude, when I saw you walking with your shirt off, I put a shirt on. I looked around and I put a shirt on. I was like,
I'm always ridiculous because I'll leave the gym and it'll be 50 degrees off and I'll take my shirt off real quick and I'll do my little motivational videos getting home, and then I'll put the shirt back on and everyone's like, what is wrong with this guy? And then also we're getting ready to go in. I threw up the virtual background. See, my hand is disappearing.
yeah, man.
And I forgot green is not I'm a TV producer. You would figure that I would be better about not wearing green when it's green screen. But it was too late. I didn't want to miss the show. I'm excited to see you guys and dive into things. And Murph, it's just awesome to see you, buddy.
Hey, likewise, man.
The show, Phil, just kind of start
take your shirt off, man.
And then by the end of it, you'll just have your shirt off. I think.
You guys, Murph, did you not prep them on who I am? Because
you don't have to ask him twice.
No, I didn't tell them anything.
Slowly, just rolling up the sleeves.
I didn't tell them anything.
And then as you slowly start rolling the sleeves, all of a sudden I get sleeves that rolled.
That's so
getting fancy here.
I'm excited to dive in and talk with you guys. So thank you very much for having me on.
Hey, it's our pleasure, man. It's good to see you. The green, for some reason, the green shirt. You're not a floating head. We can still see the shirt, so that's it's pretty cool.
And I rocked my Sparty.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I
had my on, and I was like, I wonder, I didn't want to match. So
he opted for the cardigan. It's good, Mr. Rogers and stuff.
That's
good.
I need to be warm. Yeah, I'm free.
Well, now that we have successfully made fun of Murph, that's always how we kick off the show naturally. Do you guys want to play the game that I have?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So I heard that Phillip. Do you go by Phil or Phillip? Murph calls you Phil.
Everyone, that's the number one question. You'd think people would be interested in other things about me. They always ask that, and I have no good answer. Once I hit 30, I was like, oh, I guess maybe I'll be this Phillip guy. But anyone that's known me for a long time knows I go by Phil. Phillip is fine. But we'll roll with Phillip. But if you call me Phil, I'm not going to be angry about it.
Okay, that works. That works great. I'll think of Prince Philip. So from Disney. So, Phillip, I heard you are like the biggest Creed fan. Like,
Huge.
the guys just keep talking about how much of a
mean,
Creed fan you are. No, I'm
cannot take me higher.
Oh, okay.
That's them, right? That's,
You're getting close
there we
to our
go.
game. So, no, this all started, I just felt like you just like, I don't know, that was just like a good song to share that you were coming on the show. And then it sent us down memory lane, thinking about all things Creed. And so I thought it would be fun to start us off with doing a little fill in the blank lyrics. So this is how it's going to play out. The top
PHIL, Phil in the blank.
Fill in the, oh, that's good.
Right?
When I used to DJ, I had a small amount of time where I DJ'd and I was DJ fill in the blank. I thought I was so clever.
I thought I did my research. I knew that, guys.
Funny.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is perfect.
It didn't catch on, guys. It did not catch on.
Pot on here, man.
Time, fill in the blank.
Tens of 20s of people are going to watch this on YouTube. Yes. It'll be good, man.
So how it's going to work is I'm going to play the song. And then when I pause it, I don't know. I guess I haven't thought of this all the way through. But when I pause it, if you guys want to, you can just come in as like a choir to finish it.
Yeah.
Or if you guys want to, we could do like the let's just do it as a choir. I just want to hear all of your voices. Okay. So I want you guys to fill in the lyrics once it stops. Are you guys ready?
We're jamming.
Oh, wow. We're getting serious. Rob,
Phil,
getting ready.
Phil, grab your guitar.
I'll grab my virtual guitar.
Grab your virtual guitar.
You know what's funny? Real quick, I'll tell you, this is so ridiculous. Just because I know anyone that is watching this is like, why does this guy have a virtual background? This is actually a photo of my actual place that I used to always, that was the background I used when I wanted to have like a nice looking background. And then I got so annoyed with always having to like turn my desk, because that's not how I would set up my office, right? Like I got my office where I'm looking at the nice stuff and everything behind me looks crazy. Yep. And then I just got so sick and tired of always having to change it that I would just actually took a photo of my office, put it behind me, but it normally, so I've got, my name is up there on the little thing. But yeah, and actually the guitar isn't there right now. It's in I just took it in to get, it's at Guitar Center getting maintenance and set up, and
there you go.
But you 100% need to play, Rob. So I'm excited.
100%.
All right. Are we ready?
Let's play the game.
Yes, we are.
Okay. So when I pause it, you guys, so if you want to sing with it, you can to kind of get a flow going. That's okay.
Yeah.
But when I pause it, you guys need to finish the lyrics. Okay.
All right. Push
All right. Let's start. All right. And you'll have to tell me if you can hear it. Okay.
Oh, that's easy.
To this place,
I want to see your face without a t-shirt. No t-shirts allowed in here. Take it off.
Than I was expecting. Awesome.
Fill in the blanks remix.
Phil won that round.
I like it.
Yeah. I think Phil got that one.
I feel like you could win every round by saying.
I thought I was going to do a full concert for you guys. I was ready.
Man.
He's ready.
He just wants to lead up to him taking his shirt off, which, hey,
that's it.
Go for it, man. It's happening anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you guys ready? Ready for the next one?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Take me higher to the place where blind man sees. See it?
Wow, that was great, guys. Dr. Chivers coming in with the cowbell. Yeah.
Yo, he is.
All right, let's do one more. Are you guys
One more.
One more?
One more.
Ready? Hold on. I gotta cue it up here. I gotta get it to the spot. All right. I'm gonna make this one a little harder. Harder because you guys are doing pretty good.
Because it's been so easy up to this point.
Okay, ready?
No return. Do. And I said,
when I walked out of the gym and I had this protein shake and I saw her in the corner
judging,
and she
judgy
gave me her number. None of this makes sense.
Wow,
and then she's like, "Hey, bro, lamesies."
All right.
That was beautiful, you guys. Thank you for being the first time members on Creedioke. That was beautiful.
Well, we only did it for you. Happy Women's Appreciation Day.
That was my only wish, and you guys granted it. So thank you.
Thank you, Shay. Thank you.
Yo, that's awesome.
All right, we got some funny comments rolling in. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it. We can be done for the night.
All right. Thanks, guys, very much.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much
for joining us on another episode of
One pound at a time.
So, Phil, I was just saying we were on happy hour right before this, which is our 15-minute sort of get to know everyone, introduce someone from the bariatric community to everyone else who's jumping on Instagram. And I was saying, for me, Murph and I started this about, 6-7 months ago. And I did not ever think that we would have a 2-time, nominated producer on the show, where it started with us like talking about poop and all the other stuff that
you didn't even know like Murph had cool friends like this.
I know, we were just like, hey, look at this guy. This guy has
one day,
cool videos.
One day I'll
sort of
have
weird.
a cool friend on, and you guys,
right?
One day he's working up to that. I'm the intro. No, I mean, me and Murph go. I mean, we go way back, man.
Way back.
I mean,
way back.
I don't even like I feel like inline skating.
Yeah, we would play. We would play right there on. Was it not McKittrick? What's the street that you?
Oh man,
you and Kennard. We
yeah. I mean, and we grew up in Shay, Rob. I don't know where you guys are at, but we grew up in Melvindale and in Metro Detroit, and it's funny because I talk about where we're from a lot with people, because I didn't realize how crazy. What's up, Phelps? Man,
I knew Phelps would jump on here.
I didn't realize how ridiculous and crazy a lot of us were, and it wasn't until I left, Melvindale, and I started I got to Michigan State, and I got to LA, and I started telling stories of like just things that happened on like a Wednesday, Thursday, and people would look at me and be like, dude, where are you from, bro? Like that's not normal. Like,
that's not normal.
No, I had like one of my closest friends at Michigan State one time came around, and he was like listening to all, I had Phelps there. We were all around a bonfire telling all these wild stories, and he was like, I've got like one story, like one good one from high school. He's like, and you guys are just nonstop. I mean, I think it was the cool thing about always having like a really, just a lot of us were like, it was a place where like a lot of people's parents grew up. Yeah. And then, you grew up there, you kind of stuck around, you hung out. It was a smaller community, so you knew a lot of people. And I think one of the great things, also a thing that ended up, and I will dive into it a little bit, that led to some of my issues, right? But because it wasn't like schools of 3,000, 5,000 kids, right? So you had a lot of people that spent, you had, a 10-year-old that hung out with an 8-year-old and a 9 and a 10 and 11 and 12, and you hung out based on your neighborhoods and where you could ride your bikes to. Yeah. And so you didn't end up having a lot of, I grew up, Murph, you're just a couple of years older than me. A lot of, hung out with a lot of guys that were, a few years older, which was awesome. Also exposed me to some things probably a little early on that, I probably should have been waiting on to start diving into things. And, I'm sure we'll dive into that a little bit, but, I'm always super grateful for where we grew up, how we grew up. Yeah. And really, shout out to not just Michigan. Like, obviously I love Michigan, but like downriver, what's up? I was just back in downriver last week. I was speaking at Trenton High School. Yeah. I got an opportunity to speak at Trenton High School. Then I went up to Michigan State and spoke there, and love Michigan. Hate the weather. It's freezing. It's terrible, y'all. Yeah. But
yeah. And I mean, the town, I think my graduating class was only like 180 something kids. I mean, it was a small town, but I feel like we had really good memories and quality time. I mean, there was just places, that we would go and things that we do and have fun. And
I also,
we're all very tight knit. And so
very tight knit, but also like an interesting thing. And it's a weird thing to kind of talk about, I guess, but like I'm sure this is like everywhere, right? I only have one experience to really comment on, but you had a lot of people that were like dealing with different stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that was something where like, you know, having it wasn't silver spoon. It wasn't no issues. You had a lot of kids that were, maybe single parent households, or parents were split up, or, like it was an area that, had, middle class, lower income area. It was just, you had people that were dealing with a lot, like with real life at various ages, right? Like it wasn't like, everything was just peachy and cream for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us, I mean, even to, it's funny, man, because even getting ready to come on here and talk with you, Chris, it was like, I remember going to like a church over in Lincoln Park with you. And it was, Bill
Bethel.
Pruitt was one of the guys.
Bethel. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember going over there, and it's like, I can remember being like a young kid, like going over there at like 11 or 12, and like hearing the music. And like, I wasn't very into the culture of going to church. And like, there was a part of me, man, that like, even at that young age, that like, I feel like I was looking for something outside of me, dude.
Yeah.
Like I was looking for something, a community, like, I didn't know what it was, right? Like I had friends, I played sports. It wasn't like there were any super crazy red flags about life.
Yeah.
But that part of me that was like, I want to belong to something. It was like that weird feeling that like, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Not like there's something missing. And I think that in a weird way, like in having conversations, and maybe it's like that everywhere, but I think for a lot of people that, grow up, like you have that feeling but you think it's only you, right? You think you're the only one that's like crazy broken, and everyone else has a great life and figured out.
Right.
But like, man, I can even remember those times going there and just being like, feeling like, oh man, I got to fix something. There's something wrong with me. I need something outside of me. Which led to a lot of, bad behavior later on in life. But I talk a lot, you guys, so you'll have to jump in and cut me off.
No,
and Phil, that's why you're here, man. Because here at the waiting table, we it's the majority of our audience has had bariatric surgery, but that said, the majority of our audience has been through some stuff. We've all been through some sort of traumatic experience, or had separate households, or something has caused us. Phil, I talked to you maybe 3 years ago. I was at my lowest, my highest weight, my lowest at everything else. And I talked to you, and I had this conversation about how you had battled this addiction that you had. And then it kind of dawned on me, just from the conversation I had with you, I realized I've been battling addiction my whole life as well. And it wasn't alcohol or drugs or anything like that, but it was food. For me, it was food. When my aunt passed away, that was my go-to. And all of a sudden I realized, like, this is killing me, and I didn't care. And I was at this crossroads and talked to you, and it's too soon to cry. I'm not going to do it.
I was going to write it in the comments.
No.
Honestly, it's not too soon, bro.
No, let it out.
Man.
No, but Phil, man, it means a lot to me to have you here, because this is a real like full circle moment where you were one of the first people. There were like a good handful of people that just like came around me all at the same time, and you were definitely one of them. And kind of snapped me out of it. And I realized, like, I'm not the only one dealing with this stuff. Like, Phil, you weren't, 464 pounds, but you came to a crossroads in your life, and you had to make a choice and a decision. And so that's something I think that we can all relate to. And that's what we do here at the waiting table. This is a table for everyone to come together. It doesn't matter, what sort of addiction you're dealing with, or what sort of, problems you're having, or your upbringing. We are all dealing with something. And so that being said, Phil, unless you guys have other questions, I think we could just go right into Phil. If you want to share a little bit about your story,
for sure, man.
Your addiction and where you've come from.
I love you, man. I really appreciate that, man, because it's true, man. Like, it's, for me, it was alcohol. For some people, it's it's food, it's drugs, it's porn, it's sex, it's all of it's overworking, it's we all have those things, and it just ends up being where do we turn? Like, what was it that turned, where we turned in those moments of not being of fear, of wanting comfort, wanting control. Where did we feel? Or, for me, I'll dive in, so much for me it was about escaping me. I think, growing up in our community, my mother was involved in school board. My father was on the police force in, our town. And so I kind of always grew up feeling like, we mentioned a guy named, Steve next door. His dad was the mayor, right? Yeah. There was this part of you that felt like, like I needed to be the perfect kid. Like I needed to be the cop's kid. I needed to be the school board member's kid, the neighbors, like hanging with Steve. It was like, you guys got to be, represent something.
Yeah.
And then all the pride that came with being from where we were from. But then I still like all those guys, dude, you guys were older than me. I was insecure. I wanted to be cool enough and funny enough and smart enough to hang with the older kids and, didn't want to get made fun of, and I wanted to fit in. So it's like, I'm trying to like be cool with you guys. And then I'm trying to be the perfect kid with my parents and in school and like all, and then the natural perfectionism of wanting to be the best at everything. And it was like, I mean, dude, and we're talking like 6, 7, 8 years old. Like, this isn't like it came down the line later on. And, like I never knew anything else. And it was never handed like my parents never pressed that on me. Like there's that element of me that's just like, that's how I was made, man. That's how like a lot of, where my brain kind of went. And, so for me, it was like going through school, kind of having those moments of trying to fit in, being insecure and fitting it on the outside. Right. And everything on the outside being very, very, you seem like a normal kid, normal childhood, great family, all these things, but deep down having that peace we talked about earlier, that just didn't feel right. That didn't feel whole. And I was always in my head about trying to be, like I said, the cool enough, the funny enough, and like hanging around the older guys when everyone was kind of 14, 15, 16, started drinking and smoking weed. For me, I was like 11 the first time I ever got drunk, and so there's a part of me, it was like, it felt cool to be like with the older kids and felt like you're being accepted by them. But it was for me, who was always in my head, always concerned about what other people were thinking about. And it turned it off.
Yeah.
And that's what I became addicted to. I didn't want to think. I didn't want to be concerned. I wanted to not care. Yeah. And it was like, that was really what I wanted to not care. And so in a weird way, right? Like everyone talks about like praying and meditation and like being present. The only thing that made me present was drinking.
Yeah.
Because any other time I was in the future, I was in the past. Yeah. And so I'm drinking. It's not right. Obviously, I always talk with my dad because obviously he knows I do a lot of podcasts. I tell my story a lot, and he's always, I try to have to like beat up on him because he's always bummed. He's like, man, I can't believe I didn't know. It's like, bro, I was 11. Like, who's thinking, right? And it wasn't like it was every weekend, right? But that seed had been planted of that's where Phil goes, or that's an option, in a way that I didn't have other options. I didn't have I didn't have 19 other tools that a therapist had given me when I was 11 to deal with my issues. I had one, and it was drink, it was forget, and it was just move on. Yeah. So fast forward, get into school, get into middle school, get up to high school. And when I'm 14 years old, so a sophomore in high school, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. We had a year-long battle with her. She passed away 11 months after we found out, a week before my 16th birthday. So you've got a kid now, right? I'm 15, 16. I'm sad, lost. I don't know how to actually be real vulnerable. I know how to give you rehearsed vulnerability. I know enough to tell you all the right things. Oh man, it's really, it's unfortunate. It's really sad. It happened, bad things happen to good people, but we just got to remember the good moments. And I'm really going to just, honor her and in my head, I'm so pissed because you don't understand what I'm going through. And right. I felt so alone, and I felt like I needed to do it all by myself. And I genuinely felt like I needed to just move on. It was like, I genuinely felt like, okay, just move on. And so you have all that going on, but what's the one thing that I knew that I could do to escape in my head? So I would drink, right? And when I drank, all I wanted to do was I wanted to be Stifler in the worst way, right? Like I wanted to be that guy that was fun and entertaining and wild and would do the thing you didn't think he was going to do.
Yeah.
And that's, like it, and then where that ended up kicking off for me, right? And the crazy thing with all of this, right, was still keeping that outside performance up.
Right.
Was still keeping the, got to Michigan State, got on the dean's list, was able to graduate Michigan State in 3.5 years, a semester early. So it was like, I'm doing all these things to try to be an overachiever and show that on the outside I'm okay, when deep down I was still really sad and lost and didn't know what was going on and didn't know how to communicate it. And then, I was also in a, and I think this is the tough thing is when you're put in environments that kind of encourages it, right? Like I was in college, I was in a fraternity. We're all drinking. No one seemed, like it's, we end up getting around friends that participate in activities that we like to participate in. And, no one, it has to get really bad before anyone starts making comments, right? So for me, it was like 18, was drinking and driving, crashed my car in Detroit. 19 got arrested again at Michigan State for, minor in possession. 20 got arrested again at Michigan State for minor in possession, and was still going through all the, some of the things, hiding some of the stuff from the family, some of the, they knew. One time, dude, in Melvindale, I came back one time and I was like driving around drunk and I almost hit a neighbor. And I actually don't tell this story that often, but I almost hit a neighbor. And the neighbor came over and I didn't know who it was. I was so drunk. I didn't know who it was. I tried to fight him in front of his family on my street in Carroll Street, and it was like, my parents were like, dude, you're done. Like they had to cut me off financially. Like they were scared to get me out of school. And I was like, it's crazy to think now, right? Because when you're in it, it's so easy to justify so much stuff away, right? And it's easy now to look back and connect so many dots, right? Like, of course, dude, you were a kid going through grieving, and but when you're in it, you don't realize that. You don't connect all those dots of why you're doing the things that you're doing, why you're being self-destructive, why you're harming yourself, why you're doing things that you even know are not good for you, but you're still doing it. And I graduated Michigan State, got ready to move to California. And then 11 days before I moved, I got a fourth arrest. I got a DUI, no joke, right across the street from where my dad and stepmother got married. Right. It was like, it was like 25 feet away. It was ridiculous. And I got pulled over from the newest cop on the force that didn't recognize the last name, and it was like, and it was able to finally stick. And I finally got I couldn't hide behind anything anymore. I love it. I don't know if you guys can hear
right.
Hear
yeah.
Siren, bro. Like it was, who has the sound effects playing?
I
love it.
I did.
I'm in LA, so it's definitely on my end, probably.
No, it's on someone's end, but yeah.
It's so funny. But I think it was and so then that kicked off, that kicked off the journey for me of getting sober. And, I'd love to say that, I'm a scam artist, dude. I'm a cop's kid. I try to think of everything through. So I'm going to the court and I'm going to go to AA because it's going to look good on my court card. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go through and I'll go, it'll get my parents off my back a little bit. There was a little piece of me that knew yo, dude, you're messed up. You need to get some stuff figured out. But I was 22, man. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how, we didn't have all the conversations around mental health and addiction that we do now. I speak at these high schools and I talk to these kids and 13, 14 years old, they're so aware of this stuff. And I was like, we never had conversations about mental health ever when I was in high school. You didn't know anything. And it was, and if it was never a serious conversation. It was never, I can think of a handful of times, even with some of our friends that went through stuff. And it's maybe a hug, and hey man, sorry you're going through that. But that's the extent of it. And also, and just shout out to any of the parents that are listening. If you are not having the difficult conversations with your kids, they're having it with their friends, and their friends are not mentally prepared to be able to handle those things. So I don't care how difficult the conversation is. and parents do this all the time. I talk to a lot of parents when I'm out at the schools, and they're like, man, I tell my kids to share with me. I tell my kids that they can talk to me, but it's like, but are you showing them what that looks like? Or are you just saying that to them? Are you showing them what actual vulnerability and authenticity and real conversation looks like? Because if you're not modeling the behavior, they have no way of learning it. And if they don't trust coming to a parent, they go to their friends, and their friends have no idea what they're talking about either. Like, hey, shout out to a lot of, 13, 14, 15, 16. I'm not taking any life advice from a 15-year-old, Anyway, that was my little rant there for a second. But so basically I got into AA, got sober, started to really uncover a lot of the stuff for me that was a lot of the root cause of things. And like, totally. Yeah. I mean, my mother passing away was there, but like I had a lot of stuff, man. There was a lot of stuff and I'm sure you guys all relate, like stuff when you're like 5, 6, 7, like when you actually go back and you start looking at, for us in AA, we do step work, and you go back and you rewrite all your entire inventory of everything in life. And I went back and I was amazed at some of the emotion that I still had attached to things that happened to me at 7, at 8, because it's so foundational of who we are.
Yep, absolutely.
And until we go back and are like, wait a minute, dude, do I still trust that 7-year-old's brain to like I'm 37. Should I be like listening to little Phil about how this person made him feel and how he made up this story of who he needed to become in order so he would never get hurt again? But we do it all the time, I'm going to stop talking and let you guys ask some questions, because I can go on and on and on. I'm just coming off a speaking tour where all I was doing was talking. So let me stop.
I love it.
Love it, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think that is a big reason why we thought that you would be great for the show is a lot of the things that you're talking about, especially how some of this behavior is so foundational and deep rooted in us. I have this conversation all the time with other bariatric patients or people just getting into it or people new. I just did a reset and people were asking me about what a dietary reset would mean for me. And, I've been about 2.5 years into my surgery here. And, people ask questions. I'm like, it's also fighting 30 something years of poor habits that we grew up with. And for me, coming from an immigrant family, a big part of it is like, oh, always finish your food. You can't have an empty plate. You got to finish all that. And so you do that. And a lot of times we don't think of the behavior, or we only think of the behavior, but we don't correlate that with the experience or the emotion or everything else that comes with it. And I think that a big part of my success, and I'm sure a lot of the other people's success and yours as well, is being able to have a better relationship and understanding with some of the things that you had to go through and really confront them, as opposed to just sort of take it at face value. So,
yeah. I mean, I always remember like when I got to AA and people were like, welcome to AA. We're going to ruin drinking for you. And it was that idea. It was like, I learned too much about why I was using it to then want to go back. I'll say, look, I haven't had, eating issues, but like, I've always felt, like cold turkey alcohol is an advantage that I had, that people that you guys still have to eat food. It's like, I don't know how it would have worked if it was like, Phil, you can have 2.5 beers every single day, but nothing more, nothing less. That's what you need. You need between. That would have been really difficult, And so I my heart goes out, and I have so much respect and appreciation for your guys' community and what you each have done and what your community is. And it's, one of the, I don't even know if this correlates somehow, but one of the biggest things that I talk with a lot of people about when they're newly sober is this, like, what do I say? Like, how do I explain this? Like, do I got to tell everyone I'm sober? I don't want to have that. Like, what do I drink when I go out? Like I have a what, like, and I always tell them, I was like, hey, just have one good line. All you need is the one good line that like sets it. Hey, it's for health reasons or whatever, like whatever, tell what it is, but like have that line ready. Yeah. But I have to imagine that it's got to be very difficult when you're trying to make that a life change and you're trying to explain it to people that just, right. Like for us, it's like, well, can't you just have one? For you, it's like, well, can't you just do it in moderation? And it's like, oh, thanks, bro. Never thought of that. Like, I really appreciate it. Like that you simplified all of my traumas into like a very simple, oh, great. Thanks. I'm cured now. You know?
It's awesome hearing you bring that up though, because, with me speaking with people so much about this, I've never really thought about it. And this bring it back to what you were talking about with alcohol, being able to cut cold turkey. We can't cut food cold turkey, right? We have to continue doing that. And so that struggle is definitely always there. And that's such a great point because, a lot of people talk about how hard it is to manage everything, and with us having to eat regularly all the time, and in social settings, and what you talked about, always have a good line. It's tough too, because I think there's a big portion of the bariatric community who still don't like telling people that they've had bariatric surgery, because there's always the stigma that bariatric surgery is the easy way out. We talk about that a lot here because people don't understand. Again, sure, it's like, okay, I don't have to eat as much, but again, it's changing habits that I've had for 30 plus years. It's not an easy thing to say, hey, I can't chug water anymore. Something so small as drinking water, I can't chug. I can only sip water, small amounts, or I can eat a certain amount. I have to chew a certain amount, or I get stomach aches, or I can't have all this. Right? There's such big changes, and having that one line is definitely really hard for a lot of people, I think, with bariatric surgery. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, and I mean that's the tough thing, is always the other, people in our lives that, it happens a lot in AA, where people will, it's a struggle to try to like maintain your support system, but then your support system doesn't necessarily understand it, or people, the one thing that I've really had to come to terms with is like sometimes, and this is just in life, right? Sometimes I just have to give people permission to be wrong about me. And that's really it. I just got to give people permission to completely be wrong about me, and realize that I can't get hung up on it, and appreciating that, like, it's such a kind of cheesy thing. I stole it from one of my buddies who's a pastor, right? But like, that hurt people thing. It's like, when you're happy, when you have peace and joy in your heart, and you're a caring, loving person, you don't want to hurt people.
That's right.
It doesn't even come to you to think of it. You don't think of tearing people down. You just want to be supportive and loving and caring of people. So the opposite of that is a lack of that. So when people are saying mean things or hurtful things, and a lot of times it's not that they mean to, right? I think a lot of times people they try to be understanding and helpful, blah, blah, but they're not filled. They haven't done work on whatever their stuff is to be filled with the spirit of being able to just be kind and loving at every stage, and accepting at every stage of the game. And sometimes, once again, you just got to like chalk it up to like, hey man, hurt people. Yeah. I need to have compassion for this person, even though you said something that really hit me. But, sometimes I have to appreciate that, like, you don't know what you're up to, man. Like, you don't even know how hurtful that was. So I'm going to say, I'm going to wish the best for you. I'm going to chalk that up and realize that, like, I can't hang on to that comment that you just made. And then I'm going to go back and find my community of people that I know to lean and love on. I think why you guys love doing this is because you know how difficult it is. Like, everyone, if you're watching this, like, we know it's not easy. If it were easy, we wouldn't need to have conversations about it. How many podcasts are about tying your shoe? There's not a lot of tie your shoe podcasts, because it's pretty easy to do. It's not the hardest thing to do. So
Shay has
conversations about it.
Yeah, you kind of that comment that you just made right now, that I'm just gonna leave that and no, I'm just kidding.
No. I got lost. I got lost when I said shoelace. So
one of the things that I wanted to kind of like bring a common thread to that just stuck out when you were talking was running away from yourself. And I think that's a common thread that I'm pretty sure I could speak for everybody here in this conversation, but I think a lot of people who are listening as well. For me, it showed up in running away from myself for so long. And I saw that with what you were saying, Philip, of like, having to perform and be this and be that. And that didn't really leave room for like who you were actually created to be. And so I'm curious, like, as you've been on this journey of finding out, like, who am I? Like, who is this person? How has that felt? Because I know for me, I just had my surgery a year ago, and that was really the catalyst of learning that for myself. And for me, it's been really like scary and really cool. And so I'm just curious for you, because how long has it been since you've been sober? I think you said like
15 years.
Right?
Yeah, 15. It's been 15 years. Yeah.
So was that kind of your catalyst to learning kind of like who you were more, and how did that feel?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely forced me to be asked a lot of questions that I had never even thought were questions that needed to be asked, for sure. I think it's, who we are, right? I just finished reading a book that, talked all about, who is that voice in your head when you're talking? Like, who is that? Is that you? But no, because you're having a conversation. Very spiritual book, right? But I think there's like, who are we is such a crazy question, right? Like, am I the person I am at work? Am I the person I am when I'm on a podcast? Am I the person when I'm with my buddies smoking cigars? And like, who are we? The truth is, like, we're a combination of all that stuff. But I think one of the big things is we get to choose that. And I think there's a part of, you hear when I do coaching, one of the things I love hearing people say is like, well, that's just who I am. I've always been that way. Because that's such a great thing that we can dive in and break apart. Because it's like, you were that way and you are that way because of a reason. It served you at some point. And look, most of us are great people. It's not that we need to completely change every single thing about us and who we are. And like, we're pretty solid people, but with a couple of character defects that we should probably be aware of from time to time. So it's really being able to like, look at who we are and saying, all right, what are some of the changes that I might want to make? What would be something, and it's being intentional. One of the things that earlier, Chris, when you were getting super emotional and we were waiting for you to cry. One of the things that I loved about that, man, is I wrote down, when I thought of like who I want to be, right? Look, we write the accolades and like the book and that stuff. You write it because it's bullet points for the intro, right? But like, if we were at my funeral and everyone was talking about how great of a TV producer I was, or, like, that'd be such a failure. I would view that as such a failure. And so what I really wanted to focus on, and when I would write, mission statements for my life or affirmations or goals of what I wanted to be, it wasn't, what do I want to do? It was like, what type of a person do I want to be? And one of the big things for me is like, I want to be the first call when I have a friend going through a divorce.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be the first call when someone is struggling with addiction. Like, not from a place of like, I need to have an ego because I'm out here trying to save the world. It's not about that. I've had so many strangers through my life, through AA, and also friends. And I've been given so much, so freely, that I just want to be able to give back a little portion of it. And just because I truly believe it's what makes it's how we are able to be positive, and it's how we're able to like try to be a light in our world. And that's what's important to me, is being able to be the type of person that somebody can like reach out to on IG, or that they can, hit me up. And that is, like, I don't know, I guess you say like, who am I? Like, well, I hope I'm him. Like, it's that, like, I hope that's who I am. I hope that, if, I was just at we had a friend out here in LA that unfortunately passed away, and we had a memorial for him yesterday, and we were at this, and it was like, it always brings up those thoughts of, the end, and what do you want to leave? And like, what do you, like, and it's like, for our buddy that, it's like, he's not sitting around worrying about his bills anymore. Like, he's not stressing about, like, there's so many things that steal our joy and our peace and our ability to love one another and our ability to show up for people. There's so many things in this world that steal that and try to rob us of those moments, that like, what we really need to be doing is just being intentional, understanding that who we are is our choice. There's elements of our personality. Sure, you can't change everything, but there's elements that we get to choose. Like, what type of a person do I want to be? How do I want to spend it? How do I want to show up for the people that I love in my life? How do I want to, and then do your damnedest to be that person. even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it doesn't come natural, and do it until it does, because that's what matters. Like that is what matters, is being able to connect with people and be there, like that's all. I don't know, man. I appreciate the question for sure.
That's great. Yeah.
And I'm just so curious. So to give you a little bit of background, Phillip, like I was born and raised in Los Angeles. And so I moved, I live in Oregon now, and I moved when I was 13. And it's just so funny. I'm just curious to know how you got to LA, like in the industry you're in and doing what you're doing, because for me, I'm so grateful that we left in the time that we did. A 13-year-old girl, it's like, it was a really good time to leave for me. And now I go back and visit a lot and stuff, and it's like different, but I'm just curious because it's like, it seems kind of interesting that your story that you've had, and yet you've ended up in LA, where I guess I've just heard more stories of people starting in LA, having their struggles, going somewhere else. So like, how did that all unfold?
I mean, I talk about, I'm so grateful for that DUI. Like I was 22 and I had like $600, $700 or something ridiculous that like, and I thought like, once I get to LA, I'm going to take this thing serious. Like, I'm not going to get caught up in the partying and drinking. Like cause I care about my career. I was drinking like 5-6 days a week when I was in, like it was more than just the recreational thing. Like, if I had not gotten sober, if I had moved in, like my parents talk about, like they were terrified. They were terrified for me to move out there at that time. I would have gotten so wrapped up in the LA mess that takes on, that destroys so many people out here. That year of sobriety that I got, I got in trouble. I had to get sober. And then I, had a year basically until I left and moved out to LA. And it was like, that I'm so blessed for that foundation. And you see it all the time, right? People like move locate. They think they're going to run away from their problem. Like, oh yeah. Like they think their problems don't cross state lines. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, but yeah, I would have been in a mess. And so like getting out to LA, I will say like having that sobriety, it helped, like being able to like find a local sobriety here. I really leaned heavily on like the Michigan State alumni group and just trying to do anything that I could. I had never been west of Wisconsin. I didn't really know when I did finally move out, I didn't even have a place to stay. Like I did a road trip with friends and we did like a 13-day road trip. I got to Chicago and called the girl that I was supposed to stay with. And she was like, oh, sorry, you can't stay here anymore. But I think it's kind of I think there's an element of like maybe being that age. I didn't see all the problems in it that I would see now. Right. Like, and I tell my parents even, I'm like, man, I appreciate you guys supporting that because, I'm a little bit more controlling than my pops is, I feel like I would have been like, wait, I need to know where you're going, who you're staying. Like he would, I would have needed so much more, but, and I got really lucky. I moved out to LA. And, those first couple months were very interesting, right? Like I got a job at PacSun. I got a job at Vitamin Shop. I was freaking out because I'm like, got a 4-year degree from Michigan State and I'm selling old women Metamucil and folding little kids' board shorts. Like I didn't know what was going on. And, but, I would go to the gym and then I would go play basketball and it was kind of rinse and repeat. And then I would just tell people, hey, the one thing that, I talk with a lot of the college kids about this when they're doing career prep and, like, I met a guy playing basketball and he asked me what I did. And there's something in it that like, I didn't tell him where I was at. I told him where I wanted to be. I told him I want to work in entertainment. I don't even know what that means, but I want to be in entertainment. That's what I want. And he was getting promoted as soon as he found somebody to take his job. And he ended up coaching me through the interview process, helped me out. I got hired on a show called Undercover Boss for CBS. It opened, huge. I actually was on the phone with him earlier today. Like he's still one of my closest friends. We met playing basketball, talking trash to each other at the park. And But the lesson, you know, I always say is like, in it, you know, look, I love him to death and he's one of my closest buddies. If it wouldn't have been him at the basketball court, it would have been somebody else that I was just constantly telling people what I wanted to do. Yep. And I think a lot of the times, I know we all can get very insecure, especially when we're in a transition in life. We can get very insecure about, you know, oh, don't tell people what you want to do, or don't tell people your plans. And you know, like I very easily could have been like, hey man, when he said, what do you want to do? Hey man, I work at Vitamin Shop. And it could have been the end of the conversation. But like sometimes we've got to be comfortable or just not even being comfortable. It's just being bold enough to state what you want, even when you don't even know how to get it yet. There's some power in saying, this is what I want. And I'm okay with the fact that like, I don't have it yet. I don't know how to have it yet. I don't even maybe know the first 6 steps of it. But the first step is saying, that's what I want. And being intentional and being bold enough to start including other people in that conversation. And I always found that more and more people, you know, I think it's so easy. We tell this to actors all the time when they come in. It's like they get in their head and they think like at the end, like, I want you to be good. I don't want to, and I don't like if somebody comes in for a casting for a TV show, I don't want to interview 100 people that are terrible. I want you to be good because I want to do a good job and I want to get someone in that role. And I think sometimes when we care about things, we start thinking that everyone wants us to fail, or that nobody wants to help us, or that they're going to see us as a burden or a problem, or we're needy. And so now, and that's that voice that makes us feel like we have to do everything by ourselves. And then, but I have found, and I'm sure you guys probably have too, because it's the amazing nature of people. People want to help, man. Mm-hmm. Those people with good hearts that care, that like, they get it. They want to help. And I have found so much support and joy from people, much more than the haters that were like, I can't, well, you didn't even drink that much, bro. Or the old, you know, I spilt more beer than you've ever drank. Like, cool, man. But like, for every 1 or 2 of those people that didn't understand or didn't want to buy into the dream or didn't want to help, I've been overwhelmed with the amount of people that want to show up and want to help out other people, even if they don't know how, even if it's just, hey man, rooting for you. Yeah. And sometimes look, if we don't all know how to get somebody to where they need to go, it's not our responsibility, but we can always say, hey man, I'm rooting for you. Yeah. Any way I can. Hey, just, there's probably not much I can do to help. I don't know anything about the world that you're about to dive into, but I just want you to know, man, you got support, and like, I'm behind you. That goes a long way, man. Yeah. It really does.
I love the comment that you made about, putting out there what you want, because in our community, that's a huge thing. With a lot of the peer mentoring I do with the hospital, a big part of it is, I have these conversations with people, and people will talk to me and they'll say, I can't imagine doing the things that you've done. And I can't imagine running a 5K. I can't imagine running a half marathon, doing a triathlon, or any of these things. And for me, a lot of the questions I ask them, I always ask them when in our discussion, don't tell me about like what you wish you could do. What are you going to do? Like, if you could just choose anything, if you could do anything, what would it be? And I always ended with asking them, do you think I thought that I could do any of these things that I'm doing now, but yet I'm doing it all the time? Like, this is my life now. And I think that's a big part of it. Putting yourself out there, putting your thoughts and your dreams out there, and really making them come to fruition. Because if we think based on our limitations, we're not going to get anywhere. And likewise with what you were saying, right? A lot of times, and Chris Phelps mentions the same thing or similar thing in terms of, someone seeing his eagerness to take a chance and people helping him. That's how he got his start. Like, put yourself out there. And I think the same thing with our bariatric community. There's nothing wrong with wanting to say, hey, I want to be able to run a half marathon, or I want to be able to fly on an airplane and not feel discouraged or embarrassed because of the seatbelt. I don't want, all these things. You don't have to think small. And I think a lot of times we think too small. And for me, it's the big thing that was always limiting for me is I like that big dream. I love that big idea. I love that thing. For me, if I closed my eyes, it was always this specific visualization of me hanging out with my kids as a parent who can actually carry them, stand, walk, and not be in a wheelchair or not be sort of sitting in a chair watching them do all these things and grow up. And that was big enough for me because I watched my kids do so much. I always say, like, if I could be an absentee parent while still being there, that would be me, right? I was there, but I wasn't. And, you know, for our community, you can dream big. You can do any of these different things. You're the limitation there, right? And how you think.
And I think and for some, right, it's understanding that there's both sides of that, right? Like I could have never been 15 years sober when I walked into AA. Like that wasn't even on my head of like, oh, like if I were trying to get, like, it would have been too much pressure. Right. So, and when I do goal setting with clients, right, we build that big vision. We build out that, 3, 4, 5-year vision of what we want. But then we also have to like bring it back to like very small steps now.
Right.
And I think that's where, and you find some people are either good at one or the other, right? They're either very, very short term and it's doing little things, but it's not attached to a bigger goal or a bigger meaning that when the resistance hits, that dream is strong enough to keep them going. Or we build, we've heard the like, oh, if you're, I don't know why I'm giving it the bad voice. It's like, if your goals aren't big enough to scare, or if they don't scare you, they're not big enough, right? Like, okay, cool, because I want to be scared my entire life trying to be something. But it's like sometimes we can make things that are so lofty that we get it beats us down because we're like, I could never do that. Like that's so big that it doesn't feel real. So it's like, I always, it's so funny. One of the reasons that video games are so addictive at times is because they're actually designed really well for like goals, right? Like you play a video game and it's like, the big mission, right? You got to go save the princess, right? Or you got to defeat the enemy, right? The big thing that's going to take you 75 hours to do, right?
Yep.
But you know what that is, but you're not always focused on that. Because you have smaller little things that keep popping up that tell you like, hey, like maybe go over here and then go find this, go fight that small little goblin over there. I don't know what game I'm playing, but
I'd play it, whatever.
Right? It's a kill the goblin game. And then you've got and then there's the little score, right? So there's the little tracker. There's you can see yourself leveling up. Right. You're getting more. And so there's all of these little things that actually go into the way that they design video games that actually kind of make it very, if you were to apply it, it kind of makes success seem more attainable because you're like, all right, wait, I need to have my big main goal, right? Great. But then I also need to have the stuff. I don't need to have the entire, like when you start a video game, you don't know what level 17 and 19 and 22 are going to be. You know what the ending's going to be. I got the ending. I'm working towards that. Level 57 is where I'm heading. But like, you're not concerned with levels 22 to blah, blah. You don't have to figure that out yet. All I got to do is figure out my next little step now. Yeah. And so I think it's important to have that like big goal that we really want to work towards. And then also being able to appreciate where we're currently at, what we're capable of doing today. And you got, I don't know how many more times. I still need to hear it all the time. You don't have to have every single thing figured out. Right. You don't need to have every question answered yet. Like the biggest thing that I'll say is if someone has done it, it is possible. Mm-hmm. And wherever you're at in the journey right now, and whatever the obstacle is, there are people, I'm going to be, 99% positive that there are people out there that have gone through it and have come out the other end. And those are the people that keep on your radar, right? Like, you go into my bathroom right now and you open up the little, the medicine cabinet, and there's photos of my fitness goals. And they were in there. And those guys don't know me. We've never talked. They don't, but those were there for me. That's a visual thing for me. Whatever your goals are, wherever you're at, like put visual stuff up for yourself. Like we replay negative stuff in our head so much that we need to like treat your positivity and treat your goals like they are the most gorgeous Van Gogh painting, and they deserve to be present in your life, whether that is on your putting that in the first thing you see when you wake up in the morning, whether you put it in the medicine cabinet in your bathroom, I've got all these little quotes all over my place that are reminders. And it's like, for me, at my core, like I get distracted. Yeah. At my core, I will say tomorrow seems like the better day than today, right? But when I fill all these little pieces around me so that I joke, I always call it fill proofing my life. Like I like to take me out of it. I want to, when I have motivation, grab the motivation, find the system that's going to allow me to stay in that, surround myself with the visions of success and with what I really want. And then surround yourself with the people that, share that with you, which like, if you're watching this and you're still hanging out, hey, thanks for hanging out with us. Well, like, this is great. This is the community. This is being able to like enjoy and spend time with people. And like, that's what this is all for. So I hope something there made sense.
I'm sorry. I have one more question, but Murph, I feel bad because like you haven't talked at all. Is it okay if I ask one more question?
No, go ahead. I binge watch all of Phil's videos. I'm a huge Phil fan. I'm just here to here's my friend Phil. Enjoy.
Cool. Yeah. I've been surprised lately because I shared this on my stories today that I just, from my highest weight, I've now lost 103 pounds. And
congratulations.
Nice.
It's crazy. And I just couldn't imagine like everything you guys are saying is so spot on, but it's like, I didn't think I would, it's like 100 pounds was always like in my head, like, whoa, that's like a very big stretch goal. I can't even like get there. Right. And for some reason it's like, wow, 3 pounds over. That's just, wow. Like and so what I'm finding now is before there was this fear of failure, right? Like, I don't think I can do it. I'm going to mess this up. Like I mess up everything, none of that stuff is true, but just the thoughts that go on in my head. And now I'm kind of battling with or seeing like, wow, like I have this fear of succeeding now. And like, wow, all of these dreams that I have that I'm saying and putting out there, they can actually like come true. And that's kind of scary too. And so I'm just curious with the stuff that like you've, been through, how do you combat that one? Because that one is new to me.
The unlocking of new fears, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that we protect ourselves in different ways from, it's that old, you can't catch, you can't drop the winning pass if you're not in the game. Right. And it kind of goes into, there's a great long quote, and I don't know all of it, but it's like the story of, I think it's Theodore Roosevelt and the man in the arena. And I don't know if people know it and you pull it up or whatever, but it's that idea of, it's not about, we don't get to a place where all the fear is gone. Like part of that fear is being a human, and it just reaches new levels, right? We reach different levels of it. We find new, we find new opportunities, and they scare the hell out of us, and so I think that it's one of those things that you keep, it's a lot of that same stuff of like, what is it that you want? Why do we want it? It's funny, even for me, like, I was just back in Michigan, and I was speaking, and I was a wreck before speaking at the high school. Right. And I speak all the time. I was a wreck. My sister was dealing with me, and I was like all in my head, and I was, and it was like, I'm in my head. And what it really was is like, am I going to give the value that they paid me for? Am I good enough? Are they going to like, it's the same fears of little me. Am I good enough? Am I worth this? Am I worth the amount they're paying? Am I, it's all of that stuff. And it was like, once I got out there and I had the mic in my hand, I was fine. Right. But like, it's there. Like, I've been doing it for years, and those fears still pop up because it's, there's the part of us, like anytime you find something new, I don't, there's this quote that a guy I know, always says it. It's like something along the lines of like, you know, confidence comes from knowing that you're worth the value you're going to get. Right. And when we're being on the smaller end of ourselves and we're not having our back, and we have the little, whether it's the low grade self-hatred or the distrust in ourselves, or that fear that we're always going to make a mistake, or that we're actually not that good. Yeah. Fear creeps in, doubt, fear creeps in. It's real easy. And then where do we go? And then we try to escape that feeling into whatever the thing was.
Yeah.
But what we learn now is like, okay, it's a feeling. And it's coming from somewhere, right? We talked about, who am I? Yeah. That came from that isn't me. Like, how do I let that feeling come in and go? How do I talk about it? Maybe journal about it, share about it, and then understand that, you know what, other people have done it. Whether that's like, for some people, whether it's wanting to write a book or wanting to start a business, wanting to get on stages, you know, wanting to create an online course, whatever it is that you wanted, or just wanting to be, you can do it. It's just finding time to get out of our own way. And like, yeah, like I said, I mean, to that point of like, how do you deal? Like, I still have it at times, right? There's my sister, you know, could tell you a whole thing of like, she doesn't, you know, there's always times where I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm where I'm supposed to be yet. Or I feel like I got more to do, or like, I haven't done anything, or and she's like, dude, what is wrong with you? Right. But like, I still have that part of me that's like, the book wasn't a big deal, or like, I don't, but I know other people that work on TV shows. It's not, it could be a better TV. I still have that part of me that wants to absolutely, the only words in my head are swear words. I'm running
Say
through.
It. You know, can do it.
Right. It's like everything. I always want to shit on what I've done.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's never good enough. It was never done. It could have been done better.
Yeah.
You could have cut the grass better. You could have raked better. And it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we learn how to, like, look, the one thing that I learned through, you know, program and I'm always waiting for the magic door that I walk through and there's no problem on the other end. I know the door doesn't exist. I get frustrated that the door doesn't exist, but like, no one thing is going to be the answer for us. We're fucking human. Yeah. We're humans, you know, and crazy stuff goes on in our heads. And one of the biggest things that we can do is appreciate that.
Yeah. Like,
wait a minute. Am I having a human moment? Am I having a human moment right now? Because it's like, I want to be a robot. I want to just laser focus. No. And we hear it. And here's the thing. We hear it all the time. Our social media, the people we follow, right? They all have the answer. They're all very confident. You follow my plan and here's the 6-week course and you're going to blah, blah, blah. Like, we all get insecure.
Yeah.
We all doubt ourselves. It doesn't mean that we're not meant for greatness. It means that we're a human being. And what makes us, and that makes us, you know, that can give us humility. That gives us the ability to connect with other people.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that is whenever I see those, I'm like, how do I shift this mindset right now into something positive? How do I understand that, like, as much as I hate admitting it, I'm a human. Yeah. And I'm going to have self-doubt. I'm going to not show up. I'm not going to perform all the time the way that I want to. I'm not going to be 100%. Like, I can't be perfect no matter how bad I want to try. And then even when my brain says, I know that I can't be perfect, but how close can I get? Right? Like, that's still perfectionism, you know?
Yep.
The more and more we learn about ourselves, the more and more that we share that with other people, we realize that, like, you know, it ain't a bad thing to be a human being. It's pretty cool. You know, it's a pretty cool thing.
And even just hearing that is like, it gives me peace. It's like, I knew all of that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know other people feel that. And it's still really helpful to hear it a lot of times from different people often.
Yeah. And Murph's second cool friend also said, you know, Shay, what would the version of you 4 to 5 years ago say about where you are now? Right. And I think it's a good thing to sort of remind yourself. Right. Like, a lot of times it's very hard for us to accept and appreciate who we are right now and all of our accomplishments. But that's always a good way to sort of take into context sort of where you are and everything that you've done. Mm-hmm. So you should be proud for sure.
Yeah. It's funny thinking about that question. I feel like 4 or 5 years ago, Shay would be like, I would be unrecognizable to her.
Yeah.
She would think it was a different person. Like, no way, that's the same person, in a cool way.
And I was talking with somebody the other day, and we were thinking the other way, right? Like, I had a moment where I was filled with so much gratitude because I was like, man, there's a 37-year-old Phil out there that didn't make a choice, didn't make a change, that's out there still living that life of not having healing from personal traumas, out there drinking and doing things and not he wouldn't have anything, like that. It's like to be able to understand that, like, it's so often that we think of ourselves from the other end of how much better we could be, or how, like, the perfect version of I used to always joke, like, there's this phantom Phil, the best Phil, the Phil that never makes my life is marching down the thing to where the one day where I meet him and he defeats me and it's the saddest thing ever, right? It's like, right?
That's the end of the video game. That's the end of the video,
right? And the truth is,
sounds really annoying. I don't like Phantom Phil. I like
Phantom Phil's crazy, right? But then I had to have that moment where I was like, wait a minute, no, like, wait, I'm Phantom Phil, right? I'm the one who did the work, had the support, leaned into the change, got uncomfortable. And it's like the one thing, I'm a big quote guy, obviously, as you can tell. But I butcher them. I'm not good at, I love them, but I'm not good at actually delivering them right.
It's like you're the uncle at the cookout.
Right, exactly.
Let me tell you.
But there's a quote that says, like, when you do the hard things now, life gets easier. And when you do the easy things now, life gets harder. And it's so true on a long enough timeline. If we're always making the simple choice or the easy choice, we're setting ourselves up for some pain and some frustration down the line. But when we can take moments now and we can make decisions that are uncomfortable, that might not be what we want to do, but when we make the hard choices now and we do the hard things now, life gets easier for us. And so wherever, anyone that's still watching or wherever you're at in your journey, you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need to have every single plot line and knowing how it's going to be, but know that your goal can be real and it can be attained, and you can start making some small motions towards it. And you've got people in your corner, and there's people that want to have your back as you go through this. So I hope that you guys will, jump on board and look. And here's the other thing. If you're watching this and you're on the other end where you've, like, share your damn story, show up for other people. Like, I am at my core, I always joke, like, there's a bit of me that is still a self-centered little kid that wants to feel special and wants all the attention. Right. And if I am not, I joke that I serve selfishly, because if I'm not out serving other people, Phil becomes the most important thing in my world. And it's all I care about. And suffering is the obsession with oneself. And so people are like, oh, you do so much service stuff, or you go and you talk to this and you do that. I have to, because I know me, and left to my own devices on a long enough timeline, it starts getting real grim and it starts getting real small and self-centered. So, like, get out there if you're in a position, and look, we're all in a position to be able to serve people, right? But, like, please don't diminish your story wherever you're at. Don't diminish it because because you didn't lose as much as somebody else, or because they did that thing and I don't have this, I don't have the bullet points to say. We all have authority, and it's based in our humanity and us being humans. That is where our authority comes from. It's not from your Wikipedia page, and I am not going to be a person that reaches everyone. And we don't have to be. We cannot be all things to all people. There's going to be people that are inspired by you. There's people that look at me and think I'm like just a cheesy bro who talks too low. Those aren't my people, but that's fine, because I have to know who my people are. And so wherever you're at, just know that you can be you can be inspired. You can be inspiring for others. And that all comes from us just being like, taking a second, right? Stripping away all the other stuff of like who we are, what we're supposed to be, what we have, what we don't have, who we know, who we don't know, and just be a human connecting with another human and allowing that kindness, that love, that joy, that community to be built. And when we do that, we can do some really, really amazing things with others and for each other.
Well said.
I can't think of a better place to leave everyone off tonight, other than when you were saying, strip away all that. I thought you were going to take your shirt off at that point. I thought that's the culmination. You had it all planned. You're just like, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to drop the stripping line.
Just like,
it's going to come off.
Right,
I'm going to rip my Spartan shirt.
I just rip it, and I have like a tattoo that says, "I love you, Chris." Right over
yeah.
No, and let me just say, look, I think what you guys are doing is awesome, and so I commend you so much for that, and also just the hard work, the dedication, what you guys have put in, and like Chris, I love you, man. I really appreciate you asking me to come on, and I'm so moved. Even you telling that story earlier, man, like it means so much to me, and so yeah, you guys are fantastic. I really appreciate being able to be here and just hang out with you guys.
It's been a pleasure, man. I'm so glad to finally get to. We've been sending a lot of messages back and forth. We send voice messages back and forth, and it's nice to finally be able to see you and talk to you in real time. And next time you come to Michigan, or when I come out to LA, we got to get together. And
100%.
Yeah, love you too, man. Thank you so much for being here. Are we going to throw up some hard hands for this one? Yeah, we got the love going on. Come on, Rob.
Come on, Rob.
That was a good one. This was a really good one.
That was a good one.
This was such.
Before we leave too, where can we find you, Phillip? If I know you have your book and like all, and just saying, I'm 28 years old, so I'm definitely going to be reading your book. But like, where else can we find you?
But you're shooting that shot,
right? Yeah. So you guys, right on the screen, it's at Phillip Andrew LA. You can also find me, phillipandrewla@gmail.com if you want to reach out. My website, phillipbarbb.com. It's, talk about a guy who just wants to hear his name all the time. And look, if you stuck through the whole time and you watched this whole thing and you hung out with us, number one, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chris.
And number two, please reach out. I love connecting with people and hearing what people are up to, and even just to say hi. You don't have to say anything crazy. Like, just stay in touch with me, stay in touch with everyone on the show, support the show, like share it with a friend, right? Like, I always love that thing where it's like, man, how come you haven't blown up yet? It's like, because did you share my stuff? That's why I didn't blow up yet, right? So like, share this, share this with people that are in your community that you think it would be beneficial to. I think that's such an amazing thing that we can do for one another. So please message me, message everyone on the team, tell people about it, tell people about us, and have a fantastic week. And thank you guys very much for having me on.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Looking forward to next week too, you guys. I just did a little teaser. We're trying to do that more too, just so you guys know what's coming. But my mother-in-law, who has also had bariatric surgery, is going to be our guest next week. So talking about hearing more stories. I've been so proud of her. She was the one that inspired me to look into bariatric surgery, and just to see her growth and how much more, I don't know if she's more comfortable about sharing, but she's sharing anyway. And so make sure you guys come next week to see her. It's going to be girl power next week. I mean, it'll just be more balanced, a bit more next week. So I love the guys, but be more balanced.
There you go. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on the Waiting Table podcast, where we're serving the weight loss community
1 pound at a time.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. This is the dance off, Phil. You can join in if you want.
This is your chance. This is your chance, Phil. Take it off. He's just gonna give like a little nip shot there.
Tease. That'll be for the next show. We can't give away everything.
Yeah, that's the sequel.
That's the sequel.
That's the sequel.
I can't believe we're not singing some Creed right now. Why aren't we ending with some Creed?
Yeah.
No, we don't want to get copyrighted. I don't want to have to
that's true.
Right? 10-second max.
10 seconds.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Later. Thank you, guys.